Hey friends, in today's video, we are going to talk about the tax exemptions provided by the Government of India to sovereign wealth funds and pension funds as per Budget 2021 for their investments in Indian infra sector. Traditionally, sovereign wealth funds and pension funds have been indirect investors in India through the private equity funds. And in the last 5 to 6 years, there has been a surge in the direct investments also by these sovereign wealth funds in the Indian infra sector. Especially the likes of GIC and ADIA have pumped in billions of dollars in the Indian infra sector in the last decade. Recognizing this contribution of these funds to the growth of Indian infrastructure sector, Government of India introduced certain tax exemptions for these sovereign wealth funds and pension funds. In this video, we will discuss these tax exemptions announced in the last budget, that is Budget 2020, and the changes proposed in Budget 2021 for these tax exemptions. Ashish, would you like to throw light on the last year's tax exemptions provided?
Sure, Nishith, thank you. SWFs and pension funds have been given exemptions from income in the form of dividend, interest, or long-term capital gains, which are arising from investments made in India in infrastructure facilities, which have been held for at least a period of 3 years. Infrastructure entities were given a very narrow meaning in the Act when it was passed. However, they have been expanded to include sectors mentioned in the harmonized master list of infrastructure subsectors, which now includes electricity generation, solid waste management, and telecommunication, etc. In terms of sovereign wealth funds who have been given exemption, ADIA has been provided a special treatment where a wholly owned subsidiary of ADIA who follows certain conditions have been provided a blanket exemption from the income that they make from India. Other than that, a sovereign wealth fund which satisfies some of the conditions, namely they should be a wholly owned subsidiary of the foreign country, they should be set up and regulated by the law of such foreign country, will be provided exemption after they have been notified by the Government of India to be eligible to take exemption under this provision.
Okay, so in Budget 2021, there have been few changes proposed to SWF claiming exemption. The first major change is allowing exemption for investment in infra holding companies. Earlier, this exemption was provided only for investment in infra operating entities. And in India, typically, all the infrastructure groups have a holding entity at the top with operating entities underneath it. So most of the investors, they come in at the holding entity level, and hence tax exemption was needed more for investments in holding entity and not at operating entity. So it's a welcome change, although it's subject to 3 conditions. First one is the holding entity should be an Indian entity. Second is it should be set up post 1st of April 2021, which means investment in existing holding entities won't be eligible for tax exemption. And the third condition is that the holding entity should be owning more than 75% stake in the operating entity. Second important condition that the government has relaxed is any SWF investing in AIF is eligible for tax exemption, even if the AIF invest only more than 50% in infra sector. As the earlier position was that AIF should invest 100% of the corpus in infra sector, and then only the exemption is available. So this condition has been relaxed from 100 to more than 50%. The third condition was with respect to SWF not being able to borrow money for the purpose of claiming tax exemption. But again, that was creating a lot of issues because a lot of SWF borrow money for investing in other jurisdictions. So what the government has relaxed is as long as SWF is borrowing money for the purpose, not for the purpose of investing in India, it should be fine for the SWF to borrow. And the other condition was SWF should not be carrying on any commercial activity. That also has been removed. And what the government has introduced is the SWF should not be running the day-to-day management of the portfolio company. And as long as they only have minority protection rights and a board seat, that won't be construed as running the day-to-day operations of the company. And these are, rights which typically any SWF will have. So should not be a concern for SWF to claim exemption. Ashish, would you like to throw light on the one change that has been introduced in the pension fund tax exemption?
Sure. Pension funds today are eligible to claim exemption if they are not liable to tax in their foreign country. However, certain pension funds, even though are liable to tax in the foreign country, are exempt from actually paying the tax. Well, this was noticed by the government of India, and they have introduced a change to say that even if they are liable to tax in the foreign country but are exempt from actually paying the tax in the foreign country, they should still be getting exemption under these provisions. That's about it.
Okay. Thanks. Hope all of you liked the video and found it informative. Thanks for viewing.
Thank you.